With this little pocket rocket, Sony's got the sauce. Quick video here on the Sony RX1R Mark II. I might make a whole series about this, but after I made my video about the Leica CL, I came across this guy, which I thought was a pretty good deal open box on Amazon, but then realized Amazon misrates things all the time. This came without a lens cap, and it's got a weird haze on the front of the lens and some other things, so it's going back, unfortunately. The search for the perfect little travel camera continues, but I thought I needed to make a video about this guy because, man, this is the coolest Sony camera ever made, I think. And, man, do they need to make a new version of this, the RX1R Mark III. I just feel like this is the time for a camera like this, and an updated version of this would sell like freaking hotcakes. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about this camera. New, it still retails for $32.99, which is kind of incredible for a camera this outdated. But with this build quality and this lens and the high resolution BSI sensor that's on here, I think it's still kind of worth the money. And if they just updated it at that price point, it would be worth the money, for sure. So on the front of the body here, you've got a Zeiss Sonar T-star coating, f2 35mm that is still a cracker of a lens. You can see even through the haze on this camera that I got from Amazon, you can see how good this lens is, how nicely it would render. Obviously, there won't be image samples because the lens is messed up, but I can just kind of see that this is a regular Zeiss lens if you didn't have a Vaseline haze from Amazon on the front of the lens. I've also shot with this before a few years ago, and I looked at those images, so maybe I'll put a couple of those up. It's just a great lens. It renders really well. On top of that, it's got, very much like a Leica Q camera, the Q2, Q3, Q3 it's got a macro mode with a cool spinny dial to change it over. It doesn't have the cool distance scale of the Q2 and Q3 cameras. It's just kind of blank here, but it does have a very nice manual focusing ring here, very nice feel to it. And then it has a nice clicky aperture ring, just like the Q series. Really, really well done. Nice Zeiss lens on the front of this bad boy. I would say it's probably very close to Leica quality, if not right up there. The body seems to be fully metal, which is awesome. I wish Sony would still do this, make fully metal bodies. You've got a autofocus mode selector dial here that's also, I think, metal and just feels great. It's very clicky. I don't know what DMF does, but it's some kind of manual focus with autofocus, I would guess. And there's manual focus, autofocus continuous, and autofocus single point. So cool, so tactile, so clicky. The grip here, I feel like they could have made this a little bit bigger. If they put the new battery, made the grip a little bit bigger here, that would just be perfect. As it is, the battery that's in here is super tiny, and you need about 10 of them if you want to do a day of shooting. Maybe the coolest feature of all is that there's a viewfinder in here. It pops up when you click the little button. How freaking cool is that? The viewfinder is 2.36 million dots, which is still pretty darn good looking, actually. Can't really complain. Would prefer it to be 5-point or something, but it's so small and the camera itself is so small that I think it actually holds up really well even today. And then on the top here, there's a PASM dial, the shutter button, which has a hole for soft releases, which is so cool. An exposure comp dial and a custom button. So plenty of buttons up here on top. And then on the back here, you've got a flip out screen, which is just perfect for a camera like this. It's only a 1.288 million dot 8K screen on the back here, so that definitely could be updated. It's not touch screen. They definitely need to update it to a touch screen. But you know, all Sony cameras kind of have bad back screens, so that's true of any Sony camera. This holds up to screens of today on Sony cameras, but for the touch functionality. But like generally, Sony needs to improve back screen resolution and like the way it looks and how nice the image looks on the back of the screen. This camera is just no exception to that rule. Sadly, there's no joystick on here, and since this isn't a touch screen, that's actually a real problem. So without the joystick, the only way to move around the focus point is by clicking up and down and left and right on the control wheel here, which is a nice spinny wheel, which I like. But that is so tedious and so inefficient, it's nuts. Really, really needs a little joystick on here. But yeah, there is a spinny wheel back here. Wish there was a spinny wheel up front. The exposure compensation dial, I think if they remade it, they would just make it blank like they do on all the current cameras. The D-pad also has a spinny control wheel, which is great. Nice silver clicky button that also feels metal. I love that. There's enough buttons here that are customizable. It's pretty great. And then, unlike the Q1 and Q2, like the Q3, it's got a little side door here with some ports. Obviously, they would need to update this to USB-C if they remake this. But this door, even though it's kind of small and flimsy, feels way better than the door on the Q3 43. It feels like maybe I think it's plastic, but it feels nice. The spring is nice and springy, as it were. So really good job on that. Or maybe it is metal. I'm not sure if the door is plastic or metal. I think it's plastic. And even like the door for the battery feels nice and springy. It's only a single card slot. It is what it is. I wish they'd done the Nikon ZF thing with a little micro USB as a backup or some internal storage. But that's like sort of a newer thing. I think they could move the record button off the thumb support thing here. I don't love that. I feel like I would hit that and start recording movies by accident quite a bit. And then inside the camera is a 42.4 backside illuminated sensor. It was the sensor in the A7 II, and it was the sensor in the A7R2 and R3. So it's not that old of a sensor, and it's still a cracking sensor. On top of that, it's got a variable low pass filter that you can turn on and off, which is so cool. I wonder if they could even put an ND filter in here in the new version. Amazing. It does shoot video up to 120p at 50M, whatever that is. I'm not sure. I'll have to look it up. I can put it on the screen. I'm assuming it's like 1080 or something like that. And then, of course, just, by generation, it has the old, horrible Sony menus. They're made even more horrible because there's no touch screen functionality here. So you got to navigate it without a joystick and just this spinny wheel and the buttons. That's a big pain. Like the old menus, this has the old color science in this, so you're going to have to create a linear profile for this. Tony Cooper doesn't have one, and you're going to have to redo the colors for every shot you take. But that's easy, for everything else, how sexy this is, I think it's worth that extra step in post-processing. And then with the new Sony color science, it'd probably be good enough, just like the current Sony color science. So, had this camera come in a full functional form from Amazon, would I keep it? I don't know. At over $3,000 for a new version, and they're selling used for like $2,500 and up, I think I might get kind of annoyed with this. You can't charge it with USB-C. There's no touchscreen functionality. There's no joystick. It's like kind of slow, the read speeds, if I remember correctly, are not that great. I think I would end up getting frustrated with this, even though I love the little form factor of it, and probably not use it. So it was kind of a good reminder and maybe good luck that it came messed up from Amazon. But man, if Sony, remade this, updated it, refreshed it, could keep this form factor or put a slightly bigger grip and put the new battery in here, put a touch screen on it, USB-C charging, the latest focusing algorithms, a joystick to move around the focus point when you need it. I mean, that would be perfect camera territory. Just saucy, So, Sony, I don't understand why you haven't already done this. You're so good about being ahead of the market, making market trends. This would be a total X106 killer. It'd probably be a Q3 killer. It's got a better focal length. 35 millimeters, the perfect focal length for a camera like this. I don't understand why Sony doesn't make more cameras like this. It's just so good. And it's got a little sauce to it, the macro mode, all these fun little things, the clicky aperture dial, it would make up for the sterileness of other Sony cameras. I don't know what happened that they didn't keep making cameras like this. Sony, did someone hit you on your head? Did you get beat up on the playground? I don't know. This is so perfect. This is so darn near perfect. You were so close. Also, I heard this on Petapixel, I believe, a week or two ago, one of their last podcasts of 2024, that at Sony events, all the Sony executives and all the Sony reps are carrying these. This is the little camera they carry around with them, and it makes total sense. It's small, it's light, it's compact, takes amazing photos. Like, if someone gave me one of these, or I could get one for $1,000 for sure, I would take it, I would keep it, and I would keep using it. It's a sweet little fun camera that probably takes amazing pictures. So Sony, just remake this camera. I've given you the blueprint on how to do that. You're welcome, Sony. Reach out if you want more help. Happy to draw it up for you. I'll come in and consult, Just let me know. I want it bad, If Sony had something like this in its modern lineup, and don't say the A7CR. That thing needs a better viewfinder. It needs a joystick. It's much bigger. It doesn't have this sweet lens. It's not nearly as compact. It doesn't have the flip out screen. They could have made the A7CR this camera, but they didn't. That would be a fix too, and then it'd be interchangeable lens. I know. But yeah, this would slot in so well in Sony's lineup. Then you'd have the perfect, fun, everyday carry camera. You would have the workhorse A7R5 and the A1 II and the A9 III if you need a speed demon. And then you get all the cinema cameras, starting with the FX3, FX9, going to the Venice. You've got it all. You've got all the cameras at least I need, and I think most people would want, Most people interested in digital photography, mirrorless image, and visual art. You've got it all. This is the missing piece from your lineup, Sony. I'm telling you. Just make it RX1R Mark III. Say it with me. So, anyways, rant over. Have you tried the RX1R Mark II? What did you think? Do you agree that Sony really, really, really needs to make the new version of this and that it'll sell like hotcakes? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Like, comment, subscribe, all the good stuff, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.